Hey guys, how you doing? How is your day going? I'm just starting. How was your night? Hope you had or are having an amazing and a beautiful day today. For those of you who don't know this, my name is Praise and I'm currently tuned into another episode of Everything Python, a series where we dedicate our time to mastering the art and the beauty of what Python development actually is, from the basic syntax down to advanced concepts and frameworks. In today's video, we're going to finally start entering our web frameworks. We have multiple web frameworks that we can cover, but in this series, we're going to be focusing mainly on three: Pyramid, Flask, and Django. Now, when you're arranging it based on simplicity and broadness, you'd have Flask, Pyramid, then Django. Django is more of a heavy skill framework, and that is going to be the last one we're going to cover. But I said that instead of just starting with Flask, which is a basic and a kind of like first option everyone will go to, let's use Pyramid. Working with Pyramid is extremely easy. The tutorial on it is limited, but it's a very, very nice framework. It still does advanced tasks while still maintaining its whole Python simplicity and aesthetic of it all. It's not as complex as Django where you're worried about structuring and all of those, but it's still very, very effective and very, very efficient. So before we jump into the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. If there you would like me to go further, like I said, this one we're just touching in on all the basics. So most of all the frameworks we're going to be covering in is not an in-depth tutorial on that. I'm just going to teach you enough to be able to go and start working on projects on your own. But if you would want me to work on projects with you, or you'd want a more in-depth tutorial, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Share this with anyone you know would be interested in learning this. If you have any plugin you want me to, any framework, sorry, you want me to touch on, let me know in the description below. You can feel free to check the playlist, which will be linked at the ending of the video, and you can check my page to see so many other Python tutorials from basic Python down to data science. So whatever it is you're interested in, it's all available. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so we're going to first start by creating our virtual environment so that the plugins would have would be only the plugins we need. So in order to do this, we're going to be using virtual env to create these. But if you check, remember the last tutorial we did, I spoke on so many other one. But to use virtual env, first off, make sure you have done pip install virtual env. Then we're going to do virtual env. I hope it's command prompt I'm on. Let me just command prompt. Okay. So we're going to do virtual env, then the name of what you want the virtual env to. So it's usually env or venv, but you can use whatever name your heart desires. Once it's done running, you can now activate your virtual env. To do so, you put the name of what your environment is. Then you're going to have scripts, capital letter S, scripts. This if you're running it on Windows, and then you're going to have activate. So you would notice at the side here, you have this parenthesis, which is sign that your environment has been started. So if we do pip freeze, you are seeing we don't have any module or plugin or anything. I don't know why I keep saying plugin. We don't have anything installed yet. So we're going to start by installing Pyramid, and we'll just, to get ahead, we'll install our WSGI server. It's a server that handles web environment. So we're just going to say pip install. That doesn't look correct. Install Pyramid. I'll just leave space there. You do this usually if you want to install multiple plugin, multiple frameworks, models. Wait, rest. So make sure you're connected to the internet. I'll just let it install. But whilst that is running, let's just jump right into the project. So the first thing we want to do is just create a simple program to just print hello world. So we're going to create a Python file, and we can just call this Python file hello. Now within this file, the first thing we're going to do is import our server so that we can actually run it on our browser. So we're going to say from wsgi ref dot simple underscore server We're going to import make server. Then we're going to import our configurator. So we're going to say from pyramid.config. Configurator is the capital C. And lastly, we're going to import our response from the same pyramid. Then we're just going to define a function. By now, you should already know how to define a function. You define a function using the def keyword. So even when we go into Django and the rest, we're going to be using functions to run every single thing. Occasionally, we would be using class. So you need to be familiar with your decorators, your functions, your classes. So I'm going to say hello world. And we're just going to make a request because it's a web request we're trying to create. Request. Parentheses as usual, and we're just going to return what we want it to be. So we're not templating yet. I'll try. I don't want this video to be very long, so if time is still on our side, we'll go into templating so we can actually use HTML file. So you can either use Ginger or what's the other one? There's Ginger, Marco, and Chameleon. So Ginger is usually the most popular, but yeah, as the tutorial proceeds, we'll see if we can cover one on all of them. But for now, I'm just going to be sending HTTP responses to the web, so the web will just display it as is. So it's just text. So the way it will display here on our terminal if we're running it. But now, instead of running on our terminal, it's going to be running on the web. So I'm just going to say return response. I'll just pass the text we want it to say hello world. Then we'll just create our server. So we're going to just say eve underscore name underscore is equals to main. We're just going to open up our configurator. So we'll just add the route. So this is the parts of the, so if our, let's say for example, if we're using a normal website now, and let's say our website domain was praise.com. So if our route is just a black backslash, then that means our route is on the base URL. So if you just run praise.com, that is page you see. But you can also start creating paths. So we're just going to say config dot add route. And we're now going to first of all give it a name so that we can access it with other within the project. So we will just give it maybe hello, and then we're going to pass in what part is it at. So in this case, wants to be at the base URL. So now we're now passing the view that handles this particular route. So once this route is visited, what view is it going to be calling? That is what function. So it's going to be add view. And we're just going to pass the name of the function that we created, which in this case is hello world. We don't need the parentheses, we're not calling the view. And then we'll just call the name of the route that we're referencing it to. So it's going to be our route underscore name. It's going to be equals to hello because that is the name we saved that one as. Say app is equals to config dot make underscore wsgi underscore app. Yeah, then we'll just create our server. So server is going to be equals to make server. This is the host, that is our local host, and this is the port that we want it to load at. So it's going to be localhost slash 8080 app. So if let's not use 80 though, let's use 65 because this generic one 6543. So Django too has their like signature paths usually do, but you can use whatever though. If we were not hosting it on our local server, we'll put our domain name over here. And yeah. So if you want to run this, we're just going to run this the way you would any Python app. If you don't remember how to run a Python app, Python and then the name of the file with its extension. So so it's going to be Python hello.py. Let's run that again. Sorry. All right. So I'm just going to visit the port. So right now, not in showing, but you can pass messages to show in the terminal, so you know when it's running. So maybe in one of the projects we'll do that. We are going to visit our local host at 646543. So you can see it. It's passed our message, "Hello world." Another way you can run the server if you don't want to use this method, I think this one should be the updated way to do it. You're going to say serve parentheses, you're going to call app, you're going to pack the host, and then your port 6543. So if we were to save this and we run it, it's still going to serve it the same. So whichever suits you, you can do it that way. Um, Next thing now, let's create a proper um path, a proper structured directory. So if we're working ideally on a like project, sorry, we're going to have a structure. So first thing, we're going to have your project. So should we use this total? Should we? Okay, let's just create a new one. Let's create a new. Oh no, before we just do that, firstly you have your main directory. Let's say in this case is this tut. Then you now have another directory. So within this directory, you're going to have four things. You're going to have your setup.py, you're going to have your production.ini, you're going to have your development.ini, sorry. You're going to have another directory with the same name that is tut, and within that, that's where you now have your initialization file. You have your models.py, your test.py, your views.py, and your templates directory, which will now hold all your dots ginger2 or .pt, depending on which one you're using for your templating. But if you just want a quick project style, so pylons, which is who the people who handle the pyramid, provided a cookie cutter that generates sample pyramid projects from like already existing templates. So let's just close out of here, Control C, and then we're going to install cutter. So pip install cookie cutter as one word. All right, now that that is installed, we're now going to run the cookie command, the cookie core command. So cookie core gh column pylons slash it's wrong, it's long, pyramid. Hopefully I'll remember to keep this in the comments for you. Or I'm going to I'll on my blog, just visit the blog, you see there, pyramid cookie color starter. So it's just going to install a bunch of stores. Then there'll be a README file which is going to be given to us, and then we're just going to use the README file to run it. So it's asking us for what do we want to call the project, what do we want to call this, everything Python. That is long, everything Python EP. There's this EP also. So we are going to use Chameleon for this our first one. That's the .pt. For our back end, as of now, we don't need that since it's just a basic. Technically, even for the templating, we do not really need that. And yeah, it should be installed now. Okay. All right. Yes. Finally shown. So we'll just change into this EP directory, cd EP. What did I do? Cd EP. Okay. So there should be a README file here. So we're just going to follow this. So you don't have to do it on your own technically. First of all, CDEP, we've already done that. Create a virtual environment, we have already done that. Upgrade your packaging tools if necessary. So let's just do that. So there's pip install dash upgrade pip setup tools. Whilst that is going, let's just keep going through. Install the project in editable mode with its testing requirements. So let's do that. Then for the test, it's just PyTest. So even once we start creating our own test conditionals, it's PyTest to be using. That there are other testing you can use in place of PyTest. But for now, I'll just use PyTest. Okay. And now if we just want to run the project. So the method that they're using is pre-self-development.ini. So if you are, but if you want it to automatically reload, for example, now if our server already running, and we are making changes to documents, depending on how lazy you are, if you want it to just automatically reload on its own, you just do dash dash reload, and that would run our server. So it's at port 6543, which is already where we are. So we just reload that. And this is the starter project that has been created. So yeah, we can now go through their own project or we can customize it and edit as well. But let's go through the project that they just generated for us. So in our EP, we have EP, we have our production INI file, we have our development INI file, which I told you about. We have another project that bears the same, another directory with the same name as our project. Within that, we find our templates. I didn't mention static, but static is where all your images that will be used within the app. So even once you go into Django, we'll do that also. So these images are like if you are running the program now and you use upload an image, that image doesn't go to static. Statics are image that me as the developer I want to display on my apps. You have your CSS, there's like everything for styling, and you would have your like JS or everything for like certain types of dynamic functionality. Your template is now where your structured pages would be. So in this case, our files are going to be .pt, but it's going to be the code syntax is very similar to HTML. So if you are familiar with HTML, you should be familiar with this. And then we have our views. So these they're having the views as a directory. Usually, depending on how large your project is, you can just have view as an GPR file and just have multiple functions in the view there. But you should obviously have this initial init file to let people know that this views directory is a package. So here they just have my view, then they have a not found view. So you can depend on, you can just group. If you're working on a Walkia project, you can group the projects based on how taxi they are going to be and like separate them into different sections. So like I said, this tutorial is not going to be an in-depth tutorial. So if you want something more deep, you can let me know. But we're just going to brief through it to try and keep up. We have something I mentioned WSGI earlier, which stands for Web Server Gateway Interface. So Python has this Python's like standard that defines how Python web application plugins it plugs into like standard servers, getting past incoming requests, returning responses, every interaction relating to the web. So things like even when you're working with your Django, I think I should have a Django file. Which of these my Django projects can I share? Let me just pause it quickly. Okay, I have like covered and covered this and I even had to save as running. I don't know. So I've closed that one. Although this one is running on a different port. So Django's usually runs at port 8000, but I just wanted to show you so a quick structure of how my Django project is. So this one is a bit more bulkier, so don't let it confuse you. Usually you have your main project, which is this directory we're on. You have another directory here, usually the same name as your main project, which is your think of it as is your project directory. You have your main configurations like your WSGI, you have your ASGI, you have your init. Obviously, all your directories would have it. You have your env, that's my what is it called, you'd have your settings.py, which is where you do all the configurations relating to the app. You'd also have your manage.py, which kind of like assists in like controlling your servers. Really can't open any of them right now for you to see. You have your dbsqlite because we're working with a database. Not in this tutorial, but in another tutorial would introduce some type of database into our project, so users can create accounts, we can save files, that once the server is closed and it's reopened again, we can still access all those things. All these ones is just documentation guide, so it's not part of it. That one is just me to keep track of what the project I'm working on is, because the bulky project. So all these ones you are seeing here, all these ones are apps. So these apps is kind of like the way in your views you have different view folders to section out your like divide the views by category. All these apps I can have it into one main app, and that app I'll just be creating and creating. And also within the app I can have different views. I can have like a view direction, have different views within it. But if you now check, so when you're working in Django views, you have your init obviously. So this template can either be in the main directory where all apps templates will be there, but it's bulky. So what I do instead, I have like the template folder inside the app, and then in your settings.py you route where the dir for templates are. However, entering Django, sorry, I love Django. That is the main web framework I use. So I'm obsessed about Django sometimes. Admin.py is to control how the admin end, to show what shows on the admin end. You can also create your own custom admin, which I usually do, especially when I'm working on a project for other people, because Python's admin, it's a very beautiful. Okay, I don't have any Python server open, but I would try and show you if I remember to play it. But Python's server end is already very beautiful. It allows to access the database with an amazing UI. But for some people, they'll prefer something that is more organized. Because like now they'll have different apps section that they'll just have like all the models under those apps. Speaking of models, this is the models here, which allows me to define. So models is more of your direct interaction with the database. You know, let's leave this, guys. If you let me, I would not stop. So let's just go back to pyramid. Sorry. Oh my god. So, no, see, Fashi coding is fun if it's working. Because I promise you, you have the moments where your code is just going smoothly. And you're like, mad, I created this, I did that, you wanted this, and I turned it in code and brought your dreams into reality. And then there are the other moments where, like, how hard can this actually be? Because in my head, I've already planned out the algorithm. In my head, I've already structured out everything. But, like, why is the code not coding? Do you get? Did I delete something? Okay. Um. So so setup.py. Let's handle that first. So your setup.py is kind of like, if let's say this project now I push it to GitHub, and from my GitHub I want to move it into the server end, the place where it's actually going to be hosted. I would need to know what are the things I'm going to have to install. So this their own here is a more detailed out setup.py. But even if you don't want to be generic, here is the main structure. You usually have from setup tools, import setup. Then the next one will be your requires section here, which is where you list out all the stuffs you've installed. You have usually pyramid, waitress, things like that. Once you start working with requires, usually you can have your testing file, your testing models here. But I'm seeing for theirs here, they split it. So like I was saying, like PyTest is not the only way you can test. There are multiple web tests, multiple tests you can run. Especially like once you start working with like actually hosting to the web. Then the next section after your requires is going to be your setup. In this setup, you're going to have the name. So you know how when you want to install pyramid, it's going to be pip install pyramid. This is going to be now EP or whatever the name you put there is. Version is not needed, but you can put versions there so that if let's say you are having multiple, they'll know like what version it is they're currently working on. Description too is not compulsory, but it helps for proper documentation. Long description, so this one is just going to send you to a file that will guide you. Also, again, not needed, just helps with documentation. Classifiers too. So the next thing after you have in usually in your setup, the main things will be like your name, your install requires, which is where you now direct them to like these are the plugins that they would need to have. Then usually you have like extra requires like your dev requires. Okay, see here. So there's for their own extra require, they had like their testing require, so things like that. So the way here they installed test require, you can have like dev require. So we'll get into that shortly once we actually start implementing the chameleon proper. But yeah, once you have all this, should we go back to the readme? Let's go back to the readme. I want you us to do everything first with readme so you see how detailed their readme actually is. No, their readme is done. Okay, okay, okay. Less. So usually, if after you have done this and you have moved it to a new server, what do you usually want to do? Or did I? Okay, you had it sit here, pip install dash e, and you install it. Or you can just say install what we have currently. So you just say pip install dash e full stop. Sorry, one, and it's just going to install it. So usually after you run this is when this .egg info folder is now going to be um created. So alright, so we'll just do a proper tour of everything and then we'll just start working on a basic project. I don't know what let's just do a beautiful homepage. Yeah. So this one is just going to determine your Python, your HTML knowledge. So we could just extract that code from somewhere on the internet, just post someone's landing page down. But I also want to pass some statements into like some variables into the page. So it will not just be like we're rendering a HTML page, which technically is what we're doing. But why Python developers, will you be extra? So proper tour. Okay, the first things first, we already covered this. We have our static folder where we have our styling, our images and whatnot. We have our template where we have our .pt files. We have our views. So in your .init file, so they didn't run anything in there since these just the extracted templates that they're using. But usually in your init, this is where I'll usually do my main configuration where I would like if I have maybe multiple views that I'm routing, it's here I will now route okay. add route for home here, add route for hello here. Um, but yeah, where did it do that? Okay, they have a route.py. So in their default.py, I'm guessing this is where they define all their views. Yeah. So um this is where they define all their views. So kind of like the way we did before, you would have the name of your route. You have, so since in this one here there isn't a template, so when you use a template you have to render the template. So you pass a command that is renderer equals to ep, which is the folder where it is here, template. So it's just guiding it on where to look for the template folder, the template file. Then you just return project ep. Then this not found, I'm guessing this is their 404 handler page, yes, to handle errors in case you visit a page that doesn't exist. And then they have, okay, yes, this is where they did theirs. This is where they did that. So in their initialize file, you would have you just set up your configurator here. Then within that you can now pass, like they still didn't route it here, but you can pass, like if you're using your scans like here, if you are using your make wsgi, all those things, this is where they run it. They're including chameleon because that's the what they're using for styling. So you include your chameleon. Then if, since they're not adding their routes, they now made reference to the files where their routing is, so they included that file also. But yeah, in your routes.py is just going to be just um config.add route, the name of the route and what path it's going to be found at. So let's just work on a simple project. So in this one, I want us to have two routes so that we can link to the second one. So it will not just be one page. So maybe we'll add another route. Hello. Okay. So this is a generic one usually. So next we need to update our views. So we have at view under config, you have the name of the route, you have the template you're rendering. So we'll just copy that and just edit. So let's copy it. I'm going to comment out this. So we'll have our home view at home in home.pt. And we're just going to return then just the value, the variable. So this is the name of the variable that we're going to access. What is that name? And we can just give the name anything. Let's just say home. Okay. Then we'll create the one for howdy. That is it, right? That is it. So we can just paste that and we'll just edit. So the route name is going to change to hello. Then we're going to have a hello template Or should we just let's just use the same home template? Let's just use the same home template. So we'll just have name since name is always using to access it. And we'll just pass this one so we'll know that it's a different page that has actually been loaded. It's going to be howdy. Then we'll just define our template. So I'm going to use inline CSS. I'll just quickly write a CSS code. I'll leave you CSS code in case you'd want to get that for yourself. But I'm just going to the HTML file. Sorry. So let's create the home.pt here. I'll just quickly create a simple HTML. So we're just using a very simple HTML. We're going to use inline because when we want to start referencing our external CSS file, it's going to be a bit different. So we'll use a different video for that. But in our code where we want to access that name value that we passed, we're going to use dollar sign curly brace and then the name of the variable. Now, another thing also is if let's say we do want to use like templating, and also we could also have like when you are like returning a response, you can return a styled response, but that one is just an unorganized code. So after we save this, we're now going to run it. Alright, so we're going to run it now with pserve. So it's just going to be pserve development.ini reload, and we're going to visit our server at port 6543. Okay, so this is our home view. Okay, we did add a URL to link to the other page. Let's do that. So let's just pass like that. Let's just pass like that. Where is it? So we just use our normal anchor tags. Let's copy this and create a new one. So we'll just change where we're rendering the other one from. So yeah, so obviously now this should give you a base idea of how the interaction and the project flow of the pyramid plugin works. So I will want to do a separate video where we actually work on a proper project where we're going to introduce working with database and whatnot. So if you're interested in seeing that, feel free to let me know. And in our next video, I don't know which one I'm going to cover yet, either Flax or Django. But we'll see how it goes. Don't forget to leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, ask your questions, leave your suggestions. If you're interested in seeing the next video, let me know and I'll see you guys. Bye guys.